Hey, so things are coming together in some ways that are hard to talk about just because, wisdom, we're dripping in wisdom all the time. And it's hard it's easy to hear it, easy to believe it, harder to live it, harder still to articulate the difference between believing it, doing my best to live it, and then actually feeling like I'm genuinely living into it. But I will do the best I can. So, the way I was thinking about it is, most people, they're kind of rushing headlong through life, trying to scratch various itches, trying to get under this restlessness or do something to dispel this restlessness, these emotions that come up endlessly that we don't know how to deal with. We're not taught how to deal with. And so it's always like, oh, I got to eat something. I got to scroll media. I got to prove myself. I got to prove my worth, whatever. And eventually, for a lot of people, that runs its course. For a lot of people, it doesn't. They go all the way to the grave, trying to prove their worth, right? But for some people, it runs its course. And then often they start to get depressed, like, ugh, I don't even know what this is. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And so then maybe if they're lucky, they stumble onto awakening. And then they're like, ooh, awakening. Oh, I don't know what awakening is. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Right? And so they like that becomes their new project to prove their worthiness. And, they did for me, I should say. And then eventually it finally dawned on me like, oh, I don't know what this is. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And that's great. Like, I don't have to know. That there's not some grand architecture that I have to figure out. It's like I'm here right now. I can do whatever I want. And it's like recently, or more and more, this headlong nightmare of life is turning into like a choose your own adventure kind of lucid dream where, I mean, obviously, in a dream you can fly or whatever. At least I've been able to before. And I can't just sort of make anything happen that I want to with my mind in this reality, apparently. But there's a lot that we can choose to do that maybe we never would have considered before. Like I think about after college, I wanted to travel and write. And of course, nobody's going to pay me to do that. But I made it happen anyway through bartending, through getting a job as a local journalist, and through this and that. So it all fell into place as it fell into place. It wasn't something I could ever have planned. I mean, not in a big picture sense, Yeah. So, and I was, it made me think about all the indigenous kids who, the ones that they're minding their own business, assuming they were plenty, and then they only to be kidnapped and like trained by Western psychopath nuns or whatever that, oh, you're fundamentally evil and wrong and you have to do all kinds of stupid shit defined by someone else to prove yourself worthy. And then of course they were never actually going to be worthy in this system that's a racist system. So it's a completely losing game. And of course ultimately they do that with all of the Western kids. Like all of us are indoctrinated in this way. They just had to make it so like disgustingly explicit with the indigenous kids because they had not been indoctrinated in that way from birth. So they had to make it just very clear what they were doing. And I mean, who knows? Maybe it's just like a nasty phase humanity has to go through. Like, first you just assume you're like my cats. I think they probably assume they're enough, right? And then eventually sort of like enough self-consciousness, for better or worse, it happens, it's developed, that you start to feel like you need to prove yourself, or your tribe gets wiped out and you realize like, oh, well, maybe we should have been better at weapons or something, right? Maybe that's what happened in Europe, right? With the guns, germs, and steel. It's like, oh, well, we can't just sit around and wait for another tribe to wipe us out. We got to prove ourselves. We got to be worthy of existence by being more warlike than the other one or whatever. And then you try and try and try, and eventually at least some of them realize it's nonsense. Like, we're not here just to like conquer each other. I guess we do have all this technology that came from trying to prove ourselves. And now in many ways it's helping us to unwind from that conditioning. And maybe the conditioning was an accelerator to create all that knowledge and technology. And eventually we can carry on and do the science and exploration and whatever for its own sake. Not just to make money and get power and a career. Maybe we're collectively moving toward that. I hope so. With, some regressions here and there. But for me, right now, it feels so simple. It's just, there's this present moment. I'm here now. I can do whatever I want to do or feel like the next thing to do, because of commitments I willingly took on or decided to take on. I can stop paying my light bill, or I can be a jerk to people, but those are going to be hassles, right? And kind of miserable. Why would I want to do that? I can let my friend starve, but, probably I don't want to do that. Probably that's not what I feel like doing. I can let weeds take over all the garden beds, but I like looking at, tidy and productive garden beds. So at some point I'll probably feel an impulse to take care of them, or maybe not. Point is, it's always here and now. I can feel all the various impulse, whatever comes up, and choose what I want to do. There's no external judge. There's no compulsion. And even if I screw up or whatever, like every moment, every apparent choice, it falls away completely, and then something is new again, right? So in 2008, I gave a graduation speech at my high school, and one of the last paragraphs was, remember that no matter how overwhelmed or underwhelmed you may feel sometimes, the fact remains that life is not a stale continental breakfast at Comfort Inn. It's a grand buffet on golden tables stretched out as far as the eye can see that refreshes and renews itself every single moment. There's more than enough for everyone, and it's high-quality stuff. When I wrote that, I was 28. I had been living it to some extent, but I was about to sort of dive into some difficult years that took me further away from that, which, again, stages and phases, like, we can sort of get our head above water about some kind of wisdom, and then something smacks us down, and then it takes a while to kind of like crawl our way back up, and claim our own sovereignty no matter what's happening externally, right? But yeah, I more and more it does feel like I am actually living into that. And even the little miseries, like waking up in the morning and being like, oh, this heavy human stuff again. Why am I not an ethereal angel floating in infinite bliss? Just a sec. Yeah. Why is that damn phone going off? Or looking at the yard in the morning thinking like, oh, I really let the weeds go around the maple tree. Somebody's got to deal with that, I don't take it so seriously. It's like a toddler is saying those things. She has her say, then she's done, and the day moves on. And it's like, if she has her say a bunch of times, eventually she just kind of like, she's done, So yeah, more and more, it's like it's all good. Like whatever's going on, it's all good. There are, of course, much bigger miseries and tragedies coming down everyone's pike. unless they manage to die before anything too bad happens. And, dying early is its own tragedy. But if you really viscerally know you're a part of something much greater, if you know nothing is really lost, if you feel the stakes aren't as high as you feared they were, if you're more ready to greet each moment, whatever it brings, it seems like a much more pleasant and relaxed way to live. Even if it's like wrong somehow, it seems more likely to bring joy, more joy and connection to yourself and those around you. And sometimes you see people, like ordinary people, living like that. And I'm always in such awe. Like, how can they do that? Who gave them the memo to be so pleasant and relaxed and present and kind? And I was always like, I'm way too neurotic. I'm way too unworthy. I still have to prove myself. And just being present and kind, that cannot possibly cut it. But I feel, again, like I'm slowly making my way there. And yeah, I have existential questions. Like I go down YouTube rabbit holes about DMT machine elves or whatnot. But it seems more and more that I can't demand to know what my place is in the cosmos any more than a flower or an ant or a random medium-sized collection of interstellar dust can. Like it's just part of it, and it's just what it is. And having a more lucid sense of like I don't know, the wonder and the mystery and the play of it all without the heaviness of like I have to fix it and figure it out, It's really nice. And of course there's a pathos to the fact that we are so ignorant, and that nothing we love or cherish has an abiding nature. And we all have things we miss, things we wish we could go back to, right? But imagine if we did know everything. Imagine if the whole multidimensional multiverse could be reduced to some map or equation and there were no mysteries left. Or even if there was no map, imagine if everything abided and accumulated endlessly. Or even if every memory you ever had, just as an individual, as an apparent individual, was just as present as what we call the present. Seems like it would get pretty crowded, kind of stuffy, right? It feels more and more like a kind of heaven to have so much variety, so much mystery, so much coming and going all the time, so much freshness. And like what a privilege it is to be a part of this existence, especially when you take the 5-MeO or whatever, and it's like you feel the dead emptiness of the void, the contentless emptiness of I don't know, whatever you want to call it, the opposite of the apparent opposite of this splendor and color and air and chocolate and all this stuff, right? Baby bunnies, whatever. And I realize more and more that like outside of thoughts and judgments, it's all so pristine and so fascinating. And I feel, less and less like, why was I put here to suffer? And more like, holy shit, thank you, Jesus. It's fucking cool.